Welcome back everyone. So in today's video I will be showing you how to install and set up DBT Core with Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, so let's get to it. Okay, so like I mentioned in today's video I will be showing you how to install and set up DBT Core with Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, so how do we do it? So these are the steps that we will be following in order to install and set up DBT with SQL Server. The first step that you need to have is to install SQL Server with Docker. Now, before we go deep into this, I have to mention that I'm running on Mac environment. Okay, so I am doing this on Mac machine. Now, if you are running on Windows, then most likely you may not need to install SQL Server with Docker. It's just that if you're running on Mac, it's not straightforward, so you have to go through Docker. And so you do need to install SQL Server with Docker if you want to have Microsoft SQL Server running on Mac. Okay, so yes, so the first step is you need to have SQL Server installed, and with this one I already did this one. So I previously released a video where I went through the process of installing SQL Server with Docker. I will put the link for that also in the description so that you can go and watch it if you don't have SQL Server installed. And this is only if you're running on Mac. Now if you're on Windows, then just go ahead and also install a SQL Server on your Windows environment. I will most likely do a video on Windows if you're interested on that, but I do not currently have a video on Windows. The steps should be a little bit straightforward to install SQL Server on Windows than in Mac. Okay, so again, if you are on Mac, make sure you take a look into that video so that you have SQL Server installed. Okay, and then the next step is we want then to go ahead and make sure that our SQL Server is up. So we'll go to our container and run that container, and the server will be up and running. Right after that, we will go ahead and log in to our SQL Server, and we can use some SQL client tools like DBT or Azure Data Studio. So I will be showing you how to do this. And then from there we can create a database. So this is optional. You can use the master database that comes with your SQL Server, but in our case we will create a database that we can use for our DBT project. And then right now, before we go ahead and install our DBT libraries, we want to install Microsoft SQL Server ODBC. So DBT needs this in order to have DBT running properly. Okay, so we need to install SQL Server ODBC in our Mac environment. Okay, and then from there, then we can go ahead and validate our ODBC, and we'll be using the output that we get from this command. So we run this command in order to get the output, and this one we will be using the output we get in this step here in our DBT setup. Okay, and then from there we go ahead and install Python. So the reason we want to use Python or make sure that we have Python is because we will be running our DBT inside a Python virtual environment. So you want to make sure that you have Python installed on your environment. And for our case, we want to install a stable version of Python. And I ran into this because I was running on the latest version of Python, but the ODBC driver was not stable on the latest one. So you want to run the installation then on a stable version. So depending on when you are watching this video, so currently I think the latest version of Python is 3.13. So I think you want to go back either to 3.12 or 3.11. I didn't try 3.12, but 3.11 worked pretty fine with me. So you want to test with a Python version that has been there for some time. And then from there we can go ahead then and install our DBT Core and DBT SQL Server adapters. We go ahead and validate our installation, and then from there we test a DBT model and see if it works. Okay, so these are the steps that we'll be following. So let's go ahead now and go with step 1. Okay, so like I mentioned, with step 1 I already have the video for this one, so we will just go ahead and run the container for this. Okay, so we will go over now to I'm going to, because I installed Docker desktop, so I'll just go to my launchpad and I'm going to run Docker. I'm going to launch Docker desktop, and this is the Docker desktop that I have here. And as you can see, I have the container here called SQL Server. So this is a SQL Server that I installed previously. Again, take a look into that video. So this is the container name, and if you want, you can just directly start this container from here. This will start the image. If you go to images, we have the image here, so this will start the container as well as the image, and the container is what will be running your server. Okay, so you want to go ahead and hit here start. Now if you don't have the Docker desktop and you are on terminal, then you can also just start it directly from your terminal. Okay, so let's just zoom this one a little bit. Okay, so if you are on terminal, then what you want to do is you can run docker ps, and then with this option A, this will give you the containers that are currently on your Docker. So you can see we have here SQL Server, and to start, if you want to start this, you can just go ahead and do docker start, and then the name of the image in this case, which is SQL Server. Okay, like so. And this one is going to start your container, and if you go to images, you can see that we have one here now that's running for SQL Server. And if you go back here and refresh this one, you can see now that this one is in use. Now if you want to do it in the desktop, I mean, you can also do it from the desktop version. Previously this one was not in use. All you needed to do was just check here and then just start. So if I pause it here, this is how it was before, right? So this is how the image was. So just click here and just go ahead and start. Okay, so this will also start your server. So whichever option you use, you will get the same results. This is going to start your server. Okay, so if you prefer desktop version to manage your server, then you can use the GUI here. But if you like the CLI, then you can do it through the terminal. Okay, so now that we have our server running, the next thing that we want to do is to go over to login. So we want to log in to our SQL Server, and we can use dpifer or Azure Data Studio. Okay, so I have dpifer here, and again, when we installed our server before, I showed you how to connect from dpifer as well as Azure Data Studio to your server. All you have to do basically is come here to database, create new connection. You want to connect to Microsoft SQL Server, and then put the name here, the username. We used SS, system administrator, like so. You want to put the password here that you specified when we were installing, and then just go ahead and test connection. If all is good, click finish. Okay, so that's how we did it. I already have it here. So since we have our server now running in Docker, all you have to do is just double click this, and your database now is running. Okay, so when you see this check mark here, that means that we are connected to our SQL Server database. You want to expand here, and these are the databases that we currently have in our SQL Server. This testdb is the one that I created previously when I was installing it. The master database comes by default with the environment when you install it, and we have some system tables here. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to create a database that we will be using during our DBT setup. So all I have to do is I'll just go here to databases. I will create new database, and we can call this one DBT. Remember, you can just call it anything, any database. So in my case, I'll call it DBT ELT. You can call it DBT DP, whichever one you prefer. Okay, so just enter the name of a database here, or if you just want to use, you can use master also as well. So just, you can go with any database you have. If you expand this one here, the one we just created, we have the schema as DBO. We don't have any tables or any fields. This database is pretty clean. Okay, so that is good to go. Now quickly before we move, I just want to show you in Data Studio. If you connected with the Data Studio, you can also do the same thing. So if I go here to my launchpad and bring up Data Studio, this is how Data Studio is, and I also showed you in the same video how you can connect from Data Studio. So all you have to do, because I still have my connection here, is I'm just going to double click this, and because my server is running, then this should be able to connect to our server. Okay, so this is going to connect, and it should be working fine. Okay, so this one is still spinning. We'll come back when it connects. So let's go back now, and we will go to our steps. So we have the third step working now, right? So we are able to connect from dbfer. Let's go ahead. Okay, we have also created our database. Now the next thing that we need to do is to install Microsoft SQL Server ODBC driver. Okay, so if you want to check if you already have the driver, then you can run this command here, ODBC inst, and then with this flag. So I'm just going to copy this here, and I will go to terminal. Right, I will go to terminal here. I will paste that command here. We'll run it. Okay, so you can see, if you see an output like this, this means that the driver is running. Okay, and this one is so because I already installed the ODBC driver. So in this case, we have ODBC driver 18 for SQL Server. Now, if you want to install the same, I put the link here. I'll copy this, and I'll also put this one in the description as well, if you want to download it. So this is the website for installing the Microsoft ODBC driver. So this one is for Mac OS. You scroll down, if you see here, this is the latest version, and you can see here because it says here previous versions. If you want ODBC 17 or one of the previous ones, then you can scroll down. In my case, I'll just install the latest one, which is Microsoft ODBC for 18. So if you're on Mac, you can see here you've been given the command. All you have to do is just copy this, go to terminal, just paste it here, and then run. Okay, you need to put your password there. Okay, so this one is going to, in my case, I already have it installed, so I think it's probably just going to tell me that I have it installed already. But that's how you do it. Just go and copy that command. You can see already up to date, warning. Okay, this one was already there. Yeah, so you can, I will ignore that. Okay, so just do that. Copy this command here, go back to your terminal, and put it. If you are on Windows, I think the installation process will probably be here, right here. So if you go to Windows section, you can see the ODBC driver for Windows, and it tells you here how you go about installing it. Okay, so you can go ahead and download the driver here for Windows. I'm not sure if it's needed for Python installation. Again, I mentioned I haven't tried for Windows, but most likely you do need this because it's Python that will be connecting to the ODBC driver. So go ahead and install this if you're on Windows, and then you should be good to go. Okay, so we are good now with our ODBC. We have validated that it's good here. So now let's go ahead and check our Python version. So I mentioned that you do need a stable version for Python if you want to install DPT with SQL Server, right? So let's go back to terminal, and what I need to do here is I'll just do Python 3 and version, and you can see we have 3.11, right? So there's a video that I previously made where I went through the steps of installing Python on Mac. On that one we installed 3.12, and no, it was 3.13. So what I did was I removed that Python and installed the latest one. And if you also want to know how to install Python, you can watch that video, but instead of installing, well, depending on when you watch this video, if Python 13 is the stable one, then you can just go ahead and follow those steps. But all you have to do is just go to Python download. So you can see here, this is the latest version of Python. If you want to install one of the earlier versions, in our case, if you want to install 3.12 or any of these other ones, then you can go ahead and do that. So for me, I installed 3.11.6. you can just go ahead and hit download here, and I think that is going to give you the options here, so you can choose which option here. For me, I think I chose this one for 64-bit installer. If you just hit this one, it's going to install it, and you can follow and install it. So once you're done with installing, it's going to put this inside libraries and Python frameworks. And what you want to do, if I do which Python here, I think it's which Python 3, I believe. Yeah, so it's going to put when you install it, it's going to put inside the library, frameworks, Python frameworks, versions. So if we go up to here, for example, if I navigate up to this location right here, so you will see that we have 311. Now if you install 312, then there will be another folder here for 312, 313, and all of the other ones. You might also see one for current, and I think that will be the most recent version of Python that you have. So you can go ahead and add the specific version in your environment variables. I believe that should work. If it doesn't work, then you can just remove the previous, all the other versions, and only be left with the one that you desire. Which is the case that I did in my case. So I just removed all the other versions and left 311 here. So do that in your path, and you should be good to go and run Python 11. Now let me just quickly show you the way I added it in my path. So if I'm just going to output the CSHRC, this is where we maintain our path configuration. So this is where I added it inside here. So I just went into that file and edited it, added this value right here. So this one will be pointing to our Python 11 311 location. Okay, so this will be now making sure that you are now globally running. So every time that you close your terminal, it's permanently set. Okay, all right, so I have Python 3.11 now installed, and now I believe we have everything that we need in order to install our DPT. So then let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and now install our DBT Core as well as the SQL adapter. Now to do that, there's a documentation in DBT website. If you do DBT SQL Server, okay, this is the website where you can see what you need to install, right? So you can see here we have Microsoft SQL Server setup, and it's mentioned here the adapter that you need to install. In this case, DBT SQL Server. You scroll down, it tells you how to do that. So you want to go to your terminal and run this command here. Okay, so in our case, we already have Python installed, and these are the packages or the libraries we need to install. DBT Core will install the DBT CLI, and SQL Server. DBT SQL Server is the adapter that will let DBT connect to SQL Server. All right, so we need these two here, and I will show you how to do this. Now, as you scroll down, you will see that there is a prerequisite here saying that you need ODBC. We already installed that, so you can actually see here you want to install ODBC for SQL Server 18. You can also get the same, you can go to the same location from there. Okay, I will also put this link in the description, so if you want to just come here from there, then you can do that. All right, so we have already installed the driver here, and now some of the other things now that we will include in our profiles. So profiles it will be created when we go through the installation process. Okay, so the things that you will need, driver, you can see here this is required. Okay, and you can just put the name here for the driver, ODBC driver 18 for SQL Server. That's the output we got in our terminal. So we will also need to specify this in our profiles. We need to put the server, which is a required one here. The port required, database might not be applicable, but I think we will also put it. Schema is also required. Actually, yeah, all of these are required. The schema, database, port, server, right? All of this. And then trust certificate, this one, whether the trust certificate defaults false. So I think we will need to also put this one. We'll see when we run this. Okay, so this is how the sample profile file will be looking like. Again, profiles is where your connections to your database will be stored. So you do need to have this one in place, and I will also show you how to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and now do that. You can see here we have several ways of doing this in terms of authentication. So you have Microsoft Entra ID, Service Principal, Managed Identity, all of this. If you have this one set up, then you can use them. In my case, we'll just use the basic SQL Server credentials, which is this username and password in this case. Okay, so we'll be using this one here. You can also go with Windows credentials. Depending on how you connect to your SQL Server, you can choose one of these options. Okay, so what I will do is I'll go over to my Visual Studio Code. I will open Visual Studio Code, and I will go ahead and open a folder where I will install my DBT project. So in this case, there is a folder in my workspace called repos. I'm going to open that. I will bring that over here. We have a number of other folders that are in that repos. So you can see we have BigQuery, MySQL, Postgre, Redshift, Sandbox, all of this. So this is where I keep all of my connections and projects related to ELT or data engineering, especially around DBT and Airflow. So what I need to do here is we want to create a Python virtual environment inside this location. And the reason we want to do that is because this is where we want to install and run our DBT project for SQL Server. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and just type this command Python 3. We want to make a Python virtual environment v and v, and I will call this one DBT v and v, like so. Okay, and then I'll just run this. Okay, so this will create a Python virtual environment right here. And what we want to do right after that is just activate that environment. So source DBT v and v. We want to go to bin folder, and then we just want to run the activate command. Okay, so that you can see that our Python virtual environment now is activated because we have this virtual environment in front right here, right? So that's how you know that your environment is activated. Okay, so now that we have that, you can check if we have anything in this virtual environment. We don't, so it is clean. We don't have anything here. So the next thing that we need to do then is to run the to install the libraries, right? So all you have to do is just copy this. I'll just copy the pip one and just paste it right here. Okay, so before I execute this command here, you can also do it, you can also add this one inside the requirements folder. So I have your requirement folder, so if you prefer to just track all of the libraries that you want to install inside requirements, and you can put it here. So in this case, I'm just going to be, I don't have the functions here included, but I think that's probably, you can put them here in case you are interested. In my case, I didn't put that. I think it's just going to pull the latest versions for this. So for DBT SQL Server, you can just add it here. So DBT SQL Server, I'll copy it and put it right here. Let's go. Okay, so this, you can see here I have DBT SQL Server, DBT BigQuery, Snowflake, Postgre, Redshift, MySQL, and some other libraries. And then on top here we have DBT Core. So in my case, I don't want to have all of these other databases installed, so I will not use the requirements folder. I'm just going to install it using pip directly and limit it to only the libraries that I need. So I will just enter that, and that is going to install our libraries. So you can see this one is done. And if you do pip freeze now, I think I have it here. If you run that, you can see that we have the DBT Core installed here. It installed 1.8 and as well as SQL Server 1.18 or 1.8.7. Okay, so we have now the DBT adapter for SQL Server, and the DBT Core, which is our CLI installed. Okay, so now if you wanted to do the requirements on, then you can just do pip install. You want to put R here and then just put requirements like so, and this will install everything that's inside your requirements. I'm not going to do that, but that's just how you do it instead, in case you want to use the requirements file. Okay, so we have the so we have finished now the step here for installing. So we have confirmed that we have our Python ready, and now we have finished step 8, which is install DBT Core and SQL Server. Now the next thing is actually for step 9 here, which I should have mentioned here, is to set up our project. Project. Okay, so this one is the project to set up is and this one in this case is DBT init, really, DBT init. This one is going to be initializing our DBT project. Okay, so we will go ahead and go to our terminal here now, and the command we want to run is this one for DBT init. This is going to start our DBT installation. So this is how you initialize your DBT project and connect to any database or data warehouse that you want to connect to. So you do that. It's going to ask you to enter the project name. So the project name, I will just call this one SQL Server, because we are going to be installing and connecting to SQL Server. Okay, and then here it's going to be asking you for the database you would like to use. So in the ODBC and SQL Server DBT SQL Server, you can see that you have two databases that you can connect here, Fabric and SQL Server. We just want to connect to SQL Server, so I'll click one here, and then it's asking you for the name, the host name. So for the host name here, if you're on Windows, I believe the server might be a little bit different, so you want to copy the name for your server and put it here if you're on Windows. Now on Mac, since I'm running on Docker, the server that it's running on is localhost, so I'm just going to put localhost here. And then so the port number here is interesting. I think 5432. I believe this one is Postgre or a Redshift. I'm not sure, but this is not the server that SQL Server runs on. Okay, so the server that this is not the port. The port that SQL Server runs on is, I think it's 1433 right here. Yeah, so this is 1433, and also if you come to your connection, you can see also it's mentioned here 1433. So just be careful with that, because if you click enter, then it's going to default to 5432, and that is not the one that you want. Actually, let's check port 5432 database. Yeah, this is PostgreSQL Server, right? So yeah, you don't want to do that, because we are not connecting to Postgre. So we go back now here. We are not, it's right here. Okay, so the port number we want to specify here is 1433, right? And the username here is Ese. So Ese is system administrator. That is the name we used when we were connecting to our database. Okay, so in case you ended up creating a user in your SQL Server, as long as that user has login credentials and access to databases, then you can go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to use the SA, which is a system administrator. This one comes by default. And then you also then want to put the password here. This is the password that you use to connect to your database. Okay, so I'm just going to do that here. Okay, and then the default database, this is a database that we want the DBT to write our transform data to. So in our case, this is going to be DBT ELT. This is the one we created. So I'm just going to put here DBT ELT. So remember, that is the database that DBT will be writing our transform data to when we run DBT run. Okay, and then it's asking for threads here. By default it's 1. I will leave it as 1. Okay, there we go. So we have now our DBT profile created, and you can see it's located right here. inside our user our users and our name, there's a DBT folder here. That's where your profile is located. Okay, so just make a note of this because we might be needing to go and modify this. Okay, so you can see now that our connection, our project is done, and you can see that it is created here. So you go to SQL Server on the left side of the menu here. You'll see SQL Server created, and your structure for DBT is now showing. Okay, so we have analysis, macros, models. Inside models, you can see we have example and 2 models currently available. We have seeds. This is where you put your CSV and static files, snapshots for your type 2 logic, tests if you want to put any custom logic tests and all of that. Okay, so we have our structure ready now for DBT. If you go to the project section here, DBT project, you can see that it is pointing to our profile, which is SQL Server. Okay, and you know, some of these default things already created for you. All right, so what we need to do next then is to check if our connection to our SQL Server is good. Okay, so to do that, we want to switch over to that folder for SQL Server. Okay, all right, so we want to switch there, and you can see now we have the DBT project here, which is important in our case. All right, and once you do that, the next thing that you want to do is just go ahead and do DBT debug. Okay, so you run DBT debug. Okay, so DBT debug will check if your connections to your database is good. Okay, so it's going to go through your profile, read through the details that you put there. That is the server name, the database, the schema, the username, password, and everything. If it's all good, it's going to tell you here. If there's a problem, it's also going to tell you here. So let's check what's happening. So I run that, and as you can see, it is not running properly right now. There's a error here, and the error is saying that our profile does not have schema. Okay, so schema is required property. Okay, so we need to put schema or specify schema in our profiles. So what we need to do here is we want to go to our profiles and modify that file. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to go to my Finder. The profiles will be created inside our folder here. I'm going to unhide this. So when you go to your users directory, usually you don't see the hidden folders or hidden files. So to unhide it, you want to click Shift, Command, and period. Okay, and I did a video on this. I'll put the same also in my description. So basically, combination of Shift, Command, and period, and this is going to show the folder inside your GUI here. And what you want to do is go over to DBT. You will see .dbt right here, and you just want to open that file. Okay, so that is going to open the profiles file, which is this one. Now, before I modify this file, if you are not interested in using GUI, you can also do the same thing inside your terminal. So if you go to your users, which is here, and you type ls and do a, it's going to list all the folders inside your directory, including the hidden ones. And in this case, you can also see that we have .dbt here. So you can go into .dbt cd.dbt, and inside there you have profiles. So from there, if you have code, I don't know if I have code here. That is Visual Studio Code. I doubt it. Let's see, profiles.yaml. Yeah, so I don't have code, but you can open it with some other editors. I believe I do have Nano or VI, so you can even do VI and do profiles, right? Yeah, that's going to open it, and you can edit it directly from here. Okay, so that's just another way of doing it if in case you want to use a terminal to look at that file. Okay, just making sure that you have all the options on how to look at that file. All right, so this is the file here, and as you saw in the error that we have, actually it's right here. The error is right here. It's saying that we need schema. The schema is required, so we did not specify schema. So you can put it anywhere below inside here. I'm just going to put it below database. If you just put schema, and the schema that we want to put is the schema under our database. So if you go to your DBFA, you want to expand the database that you're using, and you can see schemas here. So if you have a schema that you've created before, it will be showing under schemas. I don't have any schema here, and to create a schema you can just go to schemas. I believe schemas here. I don't think you can create here, but I think you can use just a query to create a schema. So in our DBT ELD database, we currently only have one schema here, which is DPO. Okay, so that's the one we will be using. So we'll switch over here to Visual Studio, and we just want to put DPO as our schema. Okay, I will save this, and then we'll go ahead and run our DBT debug again. Okay, all right, so we have DBT debug now throwing another error, and in our case it is the driver. Okay, so we need driver here also, and yes, we need the driver, and I showed you in the documentation here, right? It was telling us that we need the driver, so we need the driver here. Okay, so we will put, I'll just put the driver here, driver right there, and the driver that we want to put is the output of the command that we ran right here. So I'll copy this, we go back here to our terminal, and I'm going to run that command again. Okay, so the output that we want to do is this one here. So just copy the value inside the brackets. We want to come here to our Visual Studio Code, and under driver just copy it here. Okay, like so, ODBC driver 18 for SQL Server. I think it's also mentioned here in the some of this one right here. Yeah, so you want to put it, I don't think you need the single quotes on this. I think putting it this way should work fine. So go ahead and save it, and we can run it again, DBT debug. Okay, good. So seems like all is good so far. All right, the other thing that failed in our case is this one. This one is a certificate right here. So certificate failed. Okay, so this one is the certificate, and I think we need to just trust the certificate. I think it's currently false. So if you go to the section of certificate here, I believe it's it was mentioned right here. I think, yeah, right here. So you want to put here trust certificate here. Currently it is set to false, so we want to set this one to true. So I'll copy that, we'll put it below this also, trust certificate, and we will put this one, I believe it's true, it's the value here. Okay, let's go ahead and try running that again. Okay, DBT debug, there we go. So everything now is checking. Okay, so you can see everything has passed, and that means that we are able to connect to our SQL Server database from DBT. Okay, so this is how the setup for this one. This is what made it work for us. So we have our database here, you have a schema, your driver. You can see that you do need also the certificate. In this case, this was the last error that we got. You trust it, this is going to self trust the certificates. Okay, you have your local host and password. Now remember, you don't want to expose this, so I'm just showing you this because this is my local setup, so there's no much of risk. But anyway, I'm going to change this up, and you know that the password here, I'm going to delete it after this video. And then the port number here, the type, and the username. Okay, so this is everything that you need in order to connect to your SQL Server. Okay, so now that we have all of our checks passed, then the next thing that we want to do is to run a Okay, so we have validated that our connection is working now with DBT debug. The last one is to check if we are able to run a sample model. Okay, so to do that, if you go inside your SQL Server project here, the one that was created, you switch or you click into models. You can see that by default we get these two models here. The first one for this model is just a basic DBT model, and this one is materialized as a table. So that means that when we run it, it's going to be created as a table in our target database. The second one here is the materialization here is not mentioned, but if you go to the DBT project, you can see that by default everything inside the example folder is materialized as a view. So if you don't override it the way we've run it here, then this model will be created as a view in our target database. And the other thing that you can also see here is that we don't have any aliasing on these models. Okay, and that means that when you run this model, the table or the view that will be created will have the name of the model. So in this case, my first DBT model will be the name of the model that will be created in our target database as a table. So we'll have a table with the name my first DBT model, and we'll also have a view with my second DBT model name as well. Okay, and this will be created in our target database, which is what we have defined here. So I mentioned this is the database that DBT will use to write your transformations to. So this is it's just a very basic example, but when you have robust transformations, it will be inside models. So this is all of your SQL models where you write your transformation queries, and then when you click run, then you the location that you have mentioned here. So inside DBT ELT under schema DBO, that's where all of this will be written. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. But before we do it, let me just quickly show you. I will refresh the schema here. Okay, so this is a database. You go to tables, nothing is here, and fields, nothing is there. Let me check if Azure Studio is now working. It is still not working properly. I think there's probably something wrong here. I'm not sure what is the issue here. But maybe I need to close this. I will fix this one later, but previously I was able to connect. Maybe there's some sort of connection with that one that I need to fix. Let me just try it again. Okay, yeah, actually it's working now. Yeah, awesome, there we go. So yeah, so if you're using here, you also have the same, you can see the same information here. So you have in your DBT ELT tables, we don't have any tables here. Okay, so let's go ahead now and try running that command. So I'll come here, right here, and then to run it, we just want to do DBT run. Okay, DBT run is going to run every model that is inside your models. Okay, any file that's inside your model that's .SQL is going to run it. And as you can see, it successfully ran that. It successfully ran our models, and it's able to create them in the target location. So you can see here inside DBO we have our first DBT model created, and the same thing our second DBT model, and this one was materialized as a table, and the second one is a view. So you can see all of this information in your logs before you even switch over to your database. So we can tell from here that we have everything running properly. We switch over to our SQL client tool here. If you refresh, you can see under tables that we have now our first DBT model, and if you go to views, you can see the same thing right here. Okay, so this means that we are able now to run our DBT models, and we are able to write the transformed data to our SQL Server database. Okay, so you can see them right here. I believe we should be able to see them also in SQL Studio as well, because they should be syncing pretty well. You go to databases, DBT ELT, there we go. So inside tables you have your DBT, your first DBT, and you can select the first 1000 here, and there we go. And the same thing under views, you also see the same information right there. Okay, so that is how you set up DBT with SQL Server. Okay, so up to this point we can confidently say that we have now successfully set up and connected DBT Core to SQL Server that is running on Docker. Okay, so let's just go through a quick recap on what we achieved in this video. So we wanted to set up DBT Core connection and connect it to SQL Server. And so the first thing that we did was make sure that we have our SQL Server. And again, I'm running on Mac environment, so we installed it with Docker. So go watch that video if you don't have SQL Server installed on your Mac environment. It's pretty straightforward. I went through all the details that you need to follow. And after that, went ahead and ran our SQL Server container. You know, I showed you both options. If you're running on terminal or using the desktop, go ahead and log into your SQL Server using one of the SQL client tools. So I showed you DPFA, but also if you want to use Azure Data Studio, you can do it the same. Log in, create a database we used that is used by DBT, and then we went ahead and installed our ODBC driver. So this is required for your installation process. I have the link here. I'll put also this one in the description. Validate your ODBC connection. This is a command you want to run. Install Python. You want to go with a stable version. So if you are running, I think the rule of thumb is go 2 versions lower. That is me. I don't think that's that is the rule of thumb for my case. You just go 2 versions lower. So if you're on 13, go to 11. If you're on 15, go to 13. Most likely that should be the stable one. We go ahead and install the DBT Core libraries. So once you install the DBT Python, you want to create the Python virtual environment, and that's where you install the libraries. You set up your project using DBT init, enter the values that are prompted to you. And now after this, you may want to modify the profiles, because when the DBT init, the steps that you're shown there, it doesn't include everything. So we saw that one, the driver was not included, schema was not included, and the certificate was not included. So you want to modify your profiles after this and also include those missing values. After that, do DBT debug and run your model to check if everything is fine. Okay, so this is how your profile is looking like. Again, we had to add some of this after we had created our folder or our file. We added the schema, we added driver and the certificate. So you do that and then run DBT debug. It's going to hopefully run successfully for you. And then after that, you just want to test your models. Okay, so we have now connected our DBT Core to SQL Server. I know this video has gone for longer. I would have loved to show you how to run transformation queries using DBT and write it to SQL Server, but I think this video will go forever, so I will end it here, and then maybe in the next video I will show you how to connect to a table inside the SQL Server and use DBT to transform that data. Okay guys, that's what I wanted to show in this video. I wanted to show you how to install and set up DBT Core with SQL Server. If this video was helpful, please give it thumbs up and also add in the comment section your comments. If you love this video, just say I love it. If there's anything that I did not mention, also let me in the comment section. Also, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can stay updated for videos like this in future. Alright guys, that's all I had for you. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.